diggers appear, and ain't no wannabes here with some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked how they like before they get on the mic. To my left, we got the mighty Mer Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host, Matt Evan Wallace, on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
So, coming to you live from the pop-up cardboard box phone booth of the Ditch Digger Manor, it is the Ditch Diggers with Mer Lafferty and special guest host Valerie Valdes. How are you, Valerie?
I'm doing great, and I have it on reliable authority that this phone booth is larger on the inside.
Really? Excellent. No. You turned on that real fast. Wow.
I feel like Clark Kent.
Anyway, Matt couldn't make it today, and the other scheduled guest host couldn't make it, so Valerie very kindly stepped up and said she would join me on Ditch Diggers. And yeah. Valerie is well suited to be a ditch digger, as she is the author of most recently Fault Tolerance. I'm holding it up for the camera, and I'll link to it in the show notes, which is on the Locust long list for Best Sci-Fi Book of the Year. And also my co-editor on Escape Pod. So we know the business from both ends, and this is suddenly getting weird. So you talk for a second.
Yeah, that was a tough phrasing there.
Yes, sorry.
I don't like to... Is it a worm? Is it like the spice must flow? It goes in one end and out the other kind of thing? Not that kind of ends?
No, I don't think so.
Are we burning candles? Is it there's
sure.
one candle?
Yes.
Wicks?
Yes.
Candles. Oh god, that sounds like an even worse internet joke. Like, this is just getting worse. We're digging this ditch even deeper.
That's true. This is a hole, not a ditch.
Oops.
Yeah.
Somebody will have to send down a ladder, probably Matt.
Yes. So yeah, I was just talking to Valerie about the, I've been trying for decades, literal decades, to figure out how to work from home, balance podcasting, editing, and writing, and various chores. And I've never hit a balance, because lately I feel like even though I have been more productive, I can only focus on writing or all the admin stuff, including podcast creation and posting and all that. And I can't say like, ooh, I'll do writing in the morning and then the admin stuff in the afternoon. It never works like that, ever. And I've just been, I know this is talking a little bit more about the craft than the business part, but Matt's not here to stop me. So I've just been struggling. The question always comes, how do you manage this? And I'm like, I don't. There's like running around putting out fires.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I mean, it is part of ditch digging, right? Because if you don't dig the ditch in the first place, then you're not going to get paid for it. So, like, that's the business side of things comes as a direct result of the literal digging of the ditch that you are engaged in.
Yeah.
It is rough. It is rough to try to manage your time, and creative endeavors, like any other endeavor, take brain power. They take mana. And so, like, it's not so much spoon theory, since that's, disability oriented primarily, and chronic fatigue and stuff like that. But like, it's a similar mental situation. Like, I like mana for it. That's what I usually say. It's like, I'm out of mana. That's it. I used all my mana on making doctor's appointments and going through emails and organizing whatever. Children's school stuff. And so by the time that you're done with all of those kinds of minutia, then the idea of sitting down and writing fiction, your brain is just like, no thoughts, head empty, brain go burr.
Yeah, I'm thinking of in Stardew Valley, as you're hoeing along or watering things, like you're starting to feel exhausted and you're like, no, I'm good. And then one hoe too many. And then your eyes go into X's and you're just
Just keel
move
over.
very slowly. But if you eat a treat you made from tree seeds, then you can probably make it home. But
I also like to eat treats from tree seeds. They're pretty good. Gotta say, delicious tree seed treats. I'm like a bird.
mm-hmm. Yeah, about that, the admin stuff, not the bird thing. I did realize that ditch digging includes all of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you just want to make stories, and that's all you want to do, then you can make stories.
Yeah.
But when you want to make it a career, then you have to do all that admin stuff, because that makes it a business. And so many people, myself included, because I just did, say that I didn't write today, I did a whole bunch of other crap. But it's the other crap that makes it a business. And I'm trying to figure out how to tell my brain that, no, I did writing work today. Yes, I did not make progress towards my deadline, but I benefited my career in many ways. Mm-hmm. And that's something I'm trying to wrap my brain around and convince myself that I'm right.
Yeah, no, it's really tough. And I know that some people, what they like to do is they do lists of things they have done that day after the fact. Instead of to-do lists, it's the I did list or I've done list, as a way of trying to combat that brain weasel, that specific weasel. Just put it in a little carrier and send it up to the farm upstate. Because like otherwise you are just gonna, you're gonna make yourself miserable sitting around, Eeyoring about the fact that you didn't get anything done today when you actually did get a whole ton of stuff done today. It's just not the thing that for some reason, sometimes you wake up in the morning and there's one thing that you're like, I'm going to do this thing today. Mm-hmm. This is the thing I want to do today. And then you tell yourself, okay, but I'm going to do the thing after I do these other things. And then I'm going to do that one thing. And then if you don't get to that one thing, no matter how many other things you've done, you feel as if you've accomplished nothing. Yeah. Because for some reason, that was like the one, thistle stuck in your brain, the one bramble that just got snagged on you. Yeah. And then your emotional landscape becomes a Sleeping Beauty. It sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. But the problem, I like the things I have done. It's been recommended to me more than once. But also, how do you know what to do then?
Oh yeah, no, because if you don't have your brain organized in the first place, then it's like you're just wandering, you're just puttering around, getting nothing done, and then you really have nothing to put on the list, and then you're really miserable.
Yeah, so I think maybe you still need to do a to-do list just so you can keep everything organized and know what to do, know what's on fire. And, but also do the I have done list.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because then you're coming at it from both ends again.
See? Told you.
I blame you for that. It's coming up. It's coming back up.
That's fine. I'm good.
Yeah. And the thing about lists too is that, so my husband, and I don't remember the name of the program, unfortunately, I'll ask him and maybe I'll put it in the Discord later. So, hey, incentive to join Mer's Discord. There's a particular list making program that allows you to have various kinds of like themed cascading lists of different types so that you don't have just one enormous master list of tasks that is so long that your eyes glaze over and you crawl into a closet and then disassociate for 12 hours. Because that is the other side of this, right? Is that sometimes, especially when you're ADHD and your executive function is not operating at maximum capacity, you have this overwhelm that happens if you look at a list that is too long, mm-hmm. and then you don't do anything because you're just overwhelmed by, well, what do I do first? And I know you've done the random, approach.
I love
roll a die.
Yes. Tree Lobsters made an HTML file that has you weight your different to-dos. Yeah. So I would put writing as like weight of 20 mm-hmm. and laundry as weight of 5. Mm-hmm. And then I roll a die metaphorically and it pops up just one thing. Mm-hmm. And writing will have a much greater chance of coming up than laundry.
Because you gave it more weight.
Yes.
And also because clothing is optional.
True. And so I have found that really useful. Yeah, I don't see tree lobsters in chat today, but that was a pretty cool tool. Yeah, I like the random number generator. I think it makes me feel like I have a boss. That the decision making's out of my hands. Someone has told me what to do.
Yeah,
and I hate to sound like such a good little cog or follower, but honestly, it helps my productivity if somebody else is saying, this is the thing you should do now. And if that's a die, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes like that, it is good to know that about yourself, right? Because if you start from the supposition that all of us are equally capable at any given time of being the masters of our fates and the captains of our souls, you're gonna end up in these situations where you don't get things done, and it's very frustrating. And then it becomes a shame cycle, right? Where it's like, oh, I didn't get anything done yesterday because I was so overwhelmed, and then now today I have this extra weight of needing to get the things done because they didn't get done yesterday, and also I'm ashamed of myself for not doing things.
Yep.
It's like a katamari of shame. It just gets bigger and bigger, and then turns into a star. And the star is a black hole.
Valerie is also a Twitch streamer, I should have said. Valerie streams games on Monday through Thursday nights with her husband Eric, and the kids are asleep on Twitch. And I'm just saying that because I just love the video game references you make. It makes me so happy. But yeah, it is a katamari of shame. That's really it. Now Christian Writing wants to know when your katamari stream will be.
So I have actually multiple versions of Katamari, including the original, and I don't know what systems they're on, unfortunately. But I can tell you that Katamari Reroll, I think, is out on Twitch. Switch. Not Twitch, but Switch, which is the thing that sounds almost the same. And so you can has that. I don't has that, but you could. And I think it was on sale recently, even on the Switch store. I actually just bought my husband. We had our wedding anniversary, and I bought him Inscription.
Oh, that's fun.
He's a big Twin Peaks fan, and so I was like, you know what? You probably will enjoy this weird horror game.
Is he gonna stream it?
He's not. He's just playing it for funsies. Maybe he'll stream it later, but right now he's just having a good time.
It is such a weird, slightly violent game.
Yeah. But again, like, I think that the cool thing about video games is that if you're the kind of person like me who thinks metaphorically too much and irritates your friends with endless extended metaphors, video games can give you these ideas. Like Inscription, for example, is a game of iteration, right? You're learning the rules as you go. You're failing. You're getting murdered and turned into a photograph, and you just die a lot of times.
Well, actually, tell the people what Inscription's about.
Okay,
because I actually don't know if I could describe it.
Inscription, so I will do like the top-down version. So Inscription is a survival horror deck builder roguelike. And so it is a game where you have cards and you play a card game against various opponents, but it is also a horror game because you start the game essentially locked in a cabin with somebody who definitely wants to murder you and will do so repeatedly because it's a roguelike, and a roguelike game is one in which you die over and over. I should say it's not a full rogue, like a true roguelike, because in those when you die you're dead. But in this one you get to keep playing it over and over again, and every time you die you get turned into a card that you could then draw for your own deck again later. And that's just the start of the game. It goes to much weirder places after that. But it is a horror game, though. It does have animal sacrifice. It's not super graphic about it, but it still is creepy. And you will definitely have visuals of a dude reaching his hands towards you in a very uncomfortable fashion.
Yeah.
Yikes. Lots of death and murder. Good music.
Yeah, good music, good art.
Yeah.
Good puzzles. Also, there are puzzles. If you step away from the card game,
in the cabin,
you walk around the cabin, and there's like information or codes or ways you can break out better cards.
Yes.
So it's definitely a game worth trying out. I have not finished it. I'm not very good at it.
It's just very strange. If you do like horror stuff and Twin Peaks and Myst, I guess, is sort of a puzzly. It's not as deep as Myst, which is an immensely deep game, but it's got some fun quirks and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, which is funny. I like horror, but I don't like jump scares. And this does not have that, because you know when you're gonna lose. You can see it coming because you're looking at your score, and then you know when you lose, those hands are coming out of the shadows. And that's all that happens. You just see this. You just see the hands coming towards you, and then it goes dark, and then he takes your picture.
Glowing lights amid a shadow. I should say eyes, glowing eyes.
Yeah.
In shadow. Yeah, no, it's very creepy.
Yeah. But anyway, that was
Inscription.
It's pretty cool.
But playing video games can let you think laterally, and I think that is a useful thing to, and it also teaches you a kind of like patience and perseverance that will serve you well in other places, such as the ditch digging. Because otherwise you give up and you move on, and you're like, instead I will take up this other activity that is less taxing to my emotional state.
Yeah.
Again, it's instead of trying to cut your way through the brambles to get to Sleeping Beauty, you just look at them and go, actually, instead, I will simply go home.
I'm just gonna let her nap.
I'm just gonna let her.
She's been fine all this time.
I heard there's a dragon in there, and you know what? I don't need that in my life.
That's true. That's true. I have to do some self-care.
Exactly. I mean, she's been asleep this long. What's another couple days, weeks, years?
Yes,
and then next thing you know, you're a parent of some lovely children who they themselves have heard the story of the Sleeping Beauty and also have no desire to cut their way through brambles, and that's okay.
I was just thinking about trying to grind dodging lightning 100 times in a row in order to get a epic weapon in Final Fantasy X.
Woof.
100 times.
Yikes on bikes.
I tried it. I don't think I got above 10.
No.
But I'm sure if I'd gotten into the 70s, I would have been pissed if I'd gotten hit. I do know somebody who did that, but he was better at the grind than I was. Just no.
One time I had Commander Shepard do 160 something pull-ups just to see what would happen.
What happened?
I got to rub it in James Vega's face.
Oh.
It's in Mass Effect 3.
Okay.
That's about it. It was just like I had this, and that, if that is not writing 2 in a nutshell, right? All I got out of it was the satisfaction of knowing that I did the thing.
Yeah.
Did I get paid anything? No. Was there a reward? No. Did I get an achievement? I think so. But it was just an achievement. Like, what does the achievement give me? Nothing. The satisfaction of knowing I did it. That's it. That's all you get sometimes out of digging the ditch, is the satisfaction of seeing the ditch there dug.
Yeah.
And then even worse when you have to fill it back in because you're like, oh, I dug it too deep, or in the wrong place, or I hit a cable. Like, the whole process is not fun. And so you have to enjoy it for what it is, because if you don't, you're just gonna make yourself miserable.
Yeah. Which is why those of us are still writing. I was doing my taxes.
Oh, it's tax time, friends. Tax time.
And
everyone's favorite time of the year.
One thing taxes do is they tell you just how little you made in writing. Just that writing career, how lucrative it is. Because my book was late. So I got one payment. I did get a little bit of royalties from previous books, but those books are, one of them's 10 years old. And so those are
Getting royalties from a 10-year-old book is great, though.
It is great, but it is also a dinner for me and my husband. And so,
that 13-cent check will really go far.
That's
Don't
right.
spend it all in one place, Mer.
Exactly. But anyway, we were going to talk about the whole AI thing.
Yeah, which is valid given that we were just talking about money, which I think is a lot of the reason that these people are engaged in the practice of creating fast fiction and throwing it at editors like a water balloon.
To make sure this is evergreen content, we're pretty sure people have already heard about it, but if you're listening to this later, Microsoft's AI chatbot has been unveiled as being quite pretty good. And it's got its flaws, but it can write a story if you give it the right prompts. I've not tested this, but I have seen the output before. It reads to me like a 6th grader's book report. It's not good, but 6th graders can get better, and so can AI. And one thing is, our good friend over at Clarkesworld, Neil Clark, made national news when he wrote a long blog post about suddenly Clarkesworld is getting inundated with stories from a chat, the chat bot. And it's not that the AI's submitting them, it's not that sophisticated yet, and what would AI do with the little bit of money that fiction writers make? But people will feed it ideas and it'll spit out, and then they'll submit it and think they can get fast money. And I
have really bad news for them.
Yeah,
you could
exactly.
instead spend a year or 4 writing a story for Clarkesworld and never sees the light of day.
Yeah,
Yikes.
But it is a lot of people are concerned. I think at the most extreme end, they're concerned that, writers are going to be put out of jobs, just like sometimes with the AI for illustrations, you can say, give me this thing in this artist's style, and it'll spit something out. And then there's copyright complaints, and artists are saying, I didn't give you the right to feed all my work into this thing. And so that's getting ugly, but I don't think we're anywhere near a chatbot writing stories better than a person. But the problem now is that it is putting a great burden on the magazines, because we're held together with spit and rope and chewing gum. And while Escape Artists is very proud of the fact that we do pay everybody who has a hand in our magazines, it's not a lot. And, increasing our load with no real hope of reward. We're happy to go through slush because we hope we're going to be finding good stories. But just someone pouring chum into our slush piles is like, why? And it's bad.
Yuck.
Yes, Preemie, who is very familiar with our slush pile, Preemie's our assistant editor at Escape Pod, don't want the signal to noise ratio to go up any higher. Yes.
Yeah, because there is such great joy as an editor, and I say that as any of the editors, from the slush readers who are an editor to Preemie and Ben to us, like there is such joy in finding a really good story in the slush pile and being like, I get to be the person to bring this to other people and share it with them. And it is what makes this job worth doing. And so having that chum get tossed in so that it becomes some sort of horrifying feeding frenzy where you're trying to find the one good fish, I guess. I don't even know where that metaphor is going with that.
Yeah, I don't know either. We're attracting sharks. Maybe.
It makes the whole process much less pleasant for everyone involved. And like, again, right now, the stuff that's getting submitted is just it's not going to go anywhere. There's not a chance of it getting accepted. The AI art has overall like a much, I'm not going to say higher quality because that's more subjective, but like it's easier to pass off AI art as genuine art than it is to pass off AI writing as genuine writing for our purposes. Clearly, the people who are doing this stuff have been able to successfully make money throwing AI generated like articles at various outlets that are content mills. And so their entire thing is, I'll pay you $10 for, some sort of basic news reporting type story that is pretty easy to put together using an AI model at this point, because it's just facts and they're pulling it off of other websites that are already reporting it and then just yeeting it into the bin and collecting their $5 or whatever. But like they work in bulk basically, and it's kind of a horrifying churn that
Yeah.
for that purpose works, but for our purpose at this point does not, except to effectively turn this into a denial of service attack, wherein because there is so much of a flood of this stuff happening, there literally is no ability for the slush readers to keep up with the volume. It's not possible. Seeing the charts that Neil, put together about the submissions, and the charts, to be clear, were not the number of submissions they were getting. It was the number of people that he had to ban. So like individual account bans went up like thousands of percents. It went from, like under 100, if not less than that, like to over 500, I think, in a month. It was just an outrageous number compared to the historicals. And those 500 were submitting however many they were submitting rapid fire before they got banned. And then the thing too is they have automation that creates new Gmail accounts and just keeps firing things off. It's again, it's a hot mess. The denial of service thing, and for those who don't know, is basically that you're overwhelming whatever the site is, the server is, with demands to the point that they can no longer do the thing that they are intended to do, and that's essentially what's happening here.
Yeah. A couple of comments from chat. The Underpope says, do they think that Clarksworld is a content mill that will publish that content? There is apparently a list online of where you can make money fast by sending.
There are a few, yeah.
By sending your content to.
Yeah.
And Clarksworld is one of them. Is on that list. Previously,
Clarksworld has, like Neil has talked about how Clarksworld has come up more often on these lists. Like that's not new. Clarksworld appearing on the list, and he's like, yeah. And every time it happens, we'd see a bump in plagiarism usually and just other trash. But because of the chatbot now existing and being able to do the thing, it's become, again, people have created essentially programs that make a new Gmail account, churn out the content, and then yeet it at Clarksworld, and they had to close. And they've closed. Neil, they didn't close when Neil was like in the hospital. They just have never. They've closed like twice, I think he said, in their history. And so this is unprecedentedly terrible.
I don't think I'd read that. Wow. Yeah, he yeah, Neil Clark had a Widowmaker level of heart attack a couple of years ago, and is quite lucky to be alive, and we're glad he is, but sorry that this is all that kind of stuff. Christian writing, on the writing side, it's less scary and more offensive. How dare you think a computer could do our job? But on the slush reading side, it's fear of accidentally rewarding that behavior someday. Exactly. We actually, before, people would grab authors' stories and then submit them as the author, but using their email address. I don't know how they were planning on getting paid, but I caught one when I knew the author. And I'm just like, this doesn't sound like you or look like your email address. Did you send us this? And she said no. And then I'm like, well, hey, we caught a plagiarist and we like the story. Do you want a free reprint that you didn't have to work for at all? And she said yes. So that was kind of neat. But
that's like the best case scenario.
Yes, exactly. Somebody doing the work for you.
Oops.
Christian writing follows up saying, Clarksworld gets heavily promoted in those get rich quick by writing fiction articles because they pay 10 cents a word. I don't think it's that they necessarily think it's a content mill more than they respect it about as much as one. Oh God.
Yeah, and it's hilarious because you look at the statistics. You can go on Submission Grinder right now and you can look up any given pro or semi-pro rate magazine and see, based on people's self-reported stuff on Submission Grinder, so it's not 100% accurate, but you can see what the statistics are in terms of acceptance rates. It's not good, y'all. It's not good. No. The idea that you can sit here and just yeet trash, it is, you're yeeting trash. You're throwing trash at someone's house and hoping that they'll come outside and hand you a check. That's not how any of this works. That's not how any of this works.
Oh my God, that is so perfect. Wow.
None of it is like that.
Wow. Yeah, it's like, I get this when when people were trying to prove that John Scalzi was a bad writer by trying to write something in his voice, and I don't remember what their goal was, but it was they were mad about John Scalzi being successful, and they were working very hard to either bring him down or quote unquote prove that he wasn't. And I'm looking at it going, that is so much work.
Why
That's
though?
so much work they were doing. They could have written their own book. They could have done so many other things with that effort. And
It's exhausting to be a troll like that.
exactly.
I just don't. Video games exist. Like, take up a hobby, learn to knit, crochet,
Yeah.
macrame. I don't know, like chalk art. I just do something better with your life.
Chalk
I'm saying.
art.
Listen, chalk art can be really cool. I'm just saying.
I believe it. But you're telling the wrong person. I don't, troll people online. Go tell the trolls chalk art. That's the way to go.
And what's interesting is that what it comes back to with the chat stuff, the chatbot stuff, is that it is people trying to do the thing quickly. And it's the same as the AI art, right? Is the idea that you want to cut out the middleman. And in this case, the middleman is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that you have to, the digging of the ditch. Instead of digging a ditch, what you want to have a robot come and dig the ditch for you, and then you want to stand beside the ditch and look down at it proudly and say, look at this wonderful ditch I dug. And you're like, you didn't though. The robot did it?
Yeah.
What robot? The one behind you. It's not, you're not hiding this very well. It's a giant robot. I'm picturing like a Voltron robot now, just because it's cooler.
Oh yeah, if these were Voltron robots writing fiction, I'd be helping them. Because you want to be friends with the robots that are going to take over.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice. Somebody's going to write that story of the chatbot that literally writes a story. Like the chatbot that gains sentience and then writes a story and then is just all the rejection letters that because that's what's going to happen, right? It's like, oh, I can do fiction. Oh, look at all these people asking me to write stories for them. So clearly I'm a writer. And so I'm going to start submitting my own stories. And then they start collecting rejections and going, but I thought, oh.
but those lying writers told me I was good. They told me it was worth sending these stories in. So Preemie says, semi-related update, my SIFWA mentee tweeted about having to write an essay and someone leapt into her mentions offering a chatbot essay 2 minutes ago. Wow.
I would just pretend that I made a really loud fart noise, but I don't want to actually do that to anybody listening because that would be unpleasant.
Okay. Yeah, I realize that teachers and professors have been dealing with this longer than we have.
Yeah.
And I think they have tools now to be able to spot various clues to whether something was written by a student or written by one of the bots, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and just so you know, apparently the chatbots really like to title stories the last something. So just don't. If you're thinking of titling a story the last noun, don't. Simply do not. Although the last noun is actually kind of a cool idea for a story. You can have that one for free. That's on you. I'm not writing it. I'm not a chatbot.
I want the story about the chatbot that becomes Voltron.
I want the story about the me that becomes Voltron because that's cool. I would like to be. Alas, the singularity has not reached us yet. Much as the meta people want to believe that we're on the cusp of becoming robots ourselves, I don't think we're quite there yet either.
Yeah.
One way or the other. I'm also trying to the last chat bender. Yes, exactly, Daniel.
What? I just banned Christian writing. Christian writing,
Oops.
I don't know how. Just hang on.
I don't know what you did.
I don't know what I did either. I thought
it was the bots. The bots took offense to our discussions here. Listen, bots, if you want to get published, you have to up your game. You have to develop the skills just like anybody else. So, just keep practicing. Keep digging the ditch.
No! Stop. Unban! Make thing better! Unban? Can I unban? Unblock? Yes.
Somebody explained to Christian writing that everything is actually fine. Nothing is wrong. Everything's okay here. How are you?
Okay, Christian writing is not currently banned. Okay. Just hang on a second.
So, AI.
We got AI. Come on.
I think so. Actually, let's talk about the gray areas of AI because I feel like that's also worth discussing because it does relate again to the digging of the dishes and the making of stuff. Because one thing that contracts may start to do, which I think Clarkesworld now has done, is asking for an affirmative statement on the part of the author that their work has not been produced with the use of AI. And so unfortunately, what that means is potentially is that if you say use a chatbot to generate an idea or a first sentence or something like that to inspire you, basically kind of like any random generator, prompt generator kind of thing, potentially based on that kind of affirmative contractual question, you may not be allowed to submit that story. Neil has gone on record more or less as saying that he doesn't consider that to be a problem because you are still just taking the prompt or whatever it is and creating a work of fiction out of it that is your own. You're doing your own thing with it. But depending on the publication, it could become a sticking point where people are like, no, if you used any sort of computer generated something to make your story, then it's out of gas.
Yeah. Daniel's asking in the chat, how far does that go? Does that include names generated by AI? Some people said yes. Some people say yes. I saw, I guess I shouldn't say much because you don't know how private various mailing lists are, but I do know of one editor who's like absolutely no AI anything. And I don't know how they're going to figure out if your name was generated by an AI or not. But, yeah, prompts, name generations, all of that is considered verboten. For some. Yeah. I think that the prompt, like the AI prompts, is pretty much just rolling dice, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the difference between something like that and using the Story Engine deck, or, there were all sorts of exercises that when I was studying creative writing a million years ago, college, that you would like, okay, take a first line from a famous story and a last line from a famous story and then write an entirely different story in between.
Yeah.
And in theory, then, if you wanted to submit that story, you should probably change the first and last line to be something different, even though they were the thing that generated what came in the middle. But would that be considered plagiarism? I mean, no, it's two sentences out of what is ostensibly a much longer story. So the idea that the whole thing is plagiarized is a little absurd. And in that same way, it's like, okay, well, if what you generated was a first line of a story to get you going, then I don't see how that's the bot has not assisted you materially except for that initial burst, the catalyst.
Yeah.
And even then, like, coming up with ideas is so much more complicated than that. The notion that a bot can just like fix everything for you. We're not there yet. The Jetsons future has not reached us.
Yeah.
I kind of want it.
The thing is, some bots are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, one of my favorite bots on Twitter is the Midsummer Murders bot, where, I mean, if you don't watch Midsummer Murders, it is a gentle, cozy show that's been on for, like, it's in its 20-something season, British cozy murder show, but it gets really, really bizarre, and they play it completely straight. Like, yeah. And so the bot basically takes somebody with a weird job has been killed in a weird way.
Yes.
And suspicion falls on this group of bell ringers or pudding clubs.
Some random something, yeah.
Some random group of people who hunt orchids. I mean, just, yeah.
The combinations can be very hilarious.
Because they're angry about something else.
Yeah.
And then there's the one Midsummer Murders that sounds like it was written by the bot, which is a surveyor for a grocery store is found stabbed to death in a barn by two kids drinking and smoking. Suspicion falls on the upper middle class prostitution ring that are angry because the grocery store's coming to town. That is in one episode of this show. And so it's such a bizarre show that I love watching the bot because it usually comes up with weirder stuff than that. Sometimes not so much. Sometimes it'll spit out one and you think, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see
It's
that
like
in the
somebody
show.
would do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how the show works. And there's all sorts of like the bots on Twitter, a lot of which have been more or less mass banned by particular changes that have happened for reasons. But some of them are very fun. Some of them it's like, here is a picture of a possum every hour. Here is a quote from a poem every hour. Like there's a lot of different ways that these things can serve as inspiration and prompts that are not harmful in the same way that this new wave of stuff is. Yeah,
one of my husband's favorite ones was the one that just put out a tweet every Friday, the same tweet that just has Daniel Craig saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend." he said that on when he was on SNL, and it became this bot. That's all it does. On Friday, it tweets that out. So, anyway, real quick, there is talk in the chat of favorite Midsummer murders, real murders, which is Jasmine reminds death by wine or large wheel of cheese. There's also death by gazpacho. Don't forget that one. Then there was the guy who got tied down in his yard and hit with a cannon. Yeah.
I'm just saying, was it the person who ate the gazpacho or the person who made the gazpacho? Because cold soup is offensive to me.
I think it was the person who made the gazpacho, but
good. Then justice was served.
Gazpacho was not part of the motive. It was the means, not the motive.
Oh, well, all right then.
Okay.
I mean, as it should be. Gazpacho is disgusting. Sorry to all the gazpacho lovers in the audience. You're wrong, and that's okay. I can live with that.
You don't have to eat it. It's okay.
No, I know. Y'all can have all of my gazpacho that I'm never, ever going to eat.
Yes. Strangely, I know I'm somebody on the internet, but I'm not offended greatly by you hating this soup.
And to be clear, all of this is actually entirely fake. I don't actually hate anyone who hates gazpacho. Y'all can live your life. Like, it's not my business.
Yes. So wait, I want to catch up on chat. There's discussion of
ketchup.
What?
We're talking about gazpacho.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't like ketchup either for the record.
Kimmy does ask, how would they know if a submission used those? I think it's like
the prompts? Yeah, how would you?
Yeah.
I mean, so a thing about fiction, right, is that depending on how good you are at things, you bury the cables. It is a question of like who can see the strings of the marionette, who can see the man behind the curtain, who can see the way that the trick works that the magician's doing. And I feel like if you're a good enough writer, then no one will ever know because you have taken the thing and made it your own. And so there's no harm there. Like you've not done a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's the people that just are literally having a machine write an entire story for them and then pronouncing it complete and ready to go and submitting it. That is where the problem arises because they have not done the work.
I think it's also, I think about it in the terms of if you try to go to a website run by a liquor company, you have to put in go or see a rated M game on Steam, you have to put in your birth date to go further. Can you lie? Yes. I lied, and I told, I forget what, Disney. I was trying to open Disney Plus, and they're like, wait a minute, we don't know how old you are. And I'm like, come on. And so I just put in like January 1st, 1970. I just threw in the easiest date it was to type that was over 13 or 18 or whatever they wanted. But that also covers their ass.
Yeah.
It's, they have to say that you knowingly went past. You can't say you didn't know that you shouldn't be doing it or shouldn't be going there because they did tell you. So, no, it's not really it doesn't really keep people out, but you cannot claim ignorance that you shouldn't be going there. You shouldn't be doing this thing, letting an AI write your story for you. As for the prompts or the fantasy names, I have no idea. That just seems really... I think that's going overboard, but that's just me.
Yeah. A lot of contractual stuff, it is essentially a sign that you can tap, right? And that is just the case for all laws. People will argue against having certain laws because they are like, this will not have a sufficiently deterrent effect, and therefore we should not have the law. And it's like, the law is not just there to exist as a deterrent. The law is there so that afterwards, if someone violates the law, they can be punished appropriately. And so, like, that, it serves that dual purpose. It serves the first purpose of letting people know clearly what the rules are, because that's important too. We've seen with this whole Spoutable debacle that clarifying rules only helps people. It does not harm anyone to have clear rules. It means that people can then operate within the boundaries of the rules and ensure that they're in compliance with anything. Or if it is something that is an opt-in situation, like submitting a story, that's entirely opt-in. Nobody's twisting your arm and making you do it. If it's opt-in, then you can say, okay, I don't like these rules. I don't like that this particular publication is saying I may not use any prompt generating software, whatever, so I will not submit to them. You're allowed to not submit to them if their rules are that restrictive. But then having the rules in place establishes those clear boundaries, establishes those expectations, and then if they are violated, it allows the person, the editor, the company, whatever, to then retaliate in some form or fashion.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Spoutable thing? Because I've only seen it yes. Valerie does not want to talk about the Spoutable
No, it's just very frustrating. No, it's not a matter of not wanting to talk about it. It's just like, it's so frustrating every time that somebody picks a fight with Romancelandia. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. People
Why,
think that romance writers are fragile flowers. No.
Yeah, and on the other side of it, then what happens is that we put them on a pedestal, and the problem with erecting statues to people is that statues attract pigeons, and so then they get shit all over them, and that sucks too. Like, you don't want to be the target, and that's what it keeps happening to Courtney Milan, where she keeps ending up as the target for shit.
Yeah.
Pigeon attractor, and it sucks. It sucks to be that when all that you were trying to do in the first place is help. And that is essentially what happened with Spoutable, is that the founder went off at the romance community, who were simply attempting to clarify the rules for posting explicit content.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they were trying to do. And then it turned into a horrifying brigade that led to a lot of people leaving and a lot of hurt feelings and harm and harassment that did not need to happen.
Yeah.
So bad. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Spoutable is, I'm trying to think of this in you're listening to this later.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping you're wondering what Spoutable is because it's not around anymore. But when Elon Musk's Twitter hit a iceberg and caught fire and started spilling oil everywhere.
Sank into the swamp. Yep.
Sank into the swamp, burned down, fell over. As it's in its death throes, then there are a lot of other social media stuff popping up.
Yeah.
And
you've got Mastodon, Hive, Spoutable,
Post.
Post, yeah.
Yeah, I think Post is more like Medium. You're supposed to make longer things than just
journalists,
really quick.
I think, are getting attracted. And there's some other ones that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, but yeah.
Yeah.
We're seeing a plethora of them popping up.
Yeah.
Trying to take over.
Yeah. And so we're all just kind of testing each one out. And I heard Spoutable was good, and then I heard the CEO was kind of a twerp, and then this happened. And it's like, when someone's trying to help, first, that's just mean. It's just mean. And then just take any business person who takes a reasonable critique of their business and goes off like a frat boy who just had his first keg. You should not be starting a business, because that's just ridiculous. People who do that. Oh, also talking about people spouting off. Scott Adams ruined his career this weekend. That was fun.
This weekend? I mean, he's been working on that.
Oh, he has been working
now.
on it, but this weekend he went coffin nail shopping, and
I'm
then
sure
got on YouTube and started.
He's going to have
hammering.
a robust afterlife as a Fox News commentator.
Yeah. What's funny is I used to like that comic before he went off into his weird racist forest. And even now, my husband and I will make jokes from Dilbert long ago.
Yeah.
And then I was in the basement, and my husband comes down, and he's like, I'm looking to see if we got any Dilbert books. I'm like, why are you doing that? He's like, we need to get rid of some.
They gotta go.
He was just ready to wanted nothing to do with Scott Adams.
Stick him in the kindling pile for winter.
He did it again. Yes, Daniel, what he did was he decided to say that black people were a hate group. Is that what he said? And then all white people should stay away.
It was pretty bad. And again, not the first
awful.
time that he said bad things. But for some reason, this was the one that crossed the line for people, which actually then spawned a really hilarious comment from someone who basically put the benchmark at about the Reagan era for morality and ethics in terms of what we should be looking towards. And I was like, I have bad news for you about Reagan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of digging dishes.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, he said some very racist stuff, and now he's crying that
he's been canceled.
He's been canceled just because
like a Netflix show after one season.
Everybody's allowed to be as terrible as they want with no repercussions at all.
Ever. How dare. Don't worry, I'm sure he'll go on his image cleansing tour in a year or two and make a strong comeback amid a very particular demographic. Because he's very canceled. That's what happens when you're canceled.
Oh, I see. Yes. But, it's like, he's got a different setup where, the papers pay him, and the papers have fired him.
Oh, yeah, no, that's it. He's out of circulation, which is good.
So I guess he can still sell books, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's really what it comes down to, is that all of the folks that tend to talk about being canceled from a very particular demographic, what ends up happening is that they go on their cancellation tour. They play to sold-out audiences in various places. They take speaking engagements. They sell books about how canceled they are. They appear on right-wing media to talk about their cancellation. And they basically continue more or less as they were, except with a slightly different thrust of activities.
Yeah.
It's really disingenuous, and I kind of hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it keeps happening. And for some reason, people keep just kind of going with it.
Yeah.
I reiterate, loud fart noise. Just pretend I made one.
Yep.
That's the sound of my heart.
I feel the need to say this every once in a while. This applies only in the U.S., but the First Amendment gives you permission to not be canceled by the government, depending on what you say.
Yeah.
Other people and companies and your boss and your family, they don't have to. The Constitution does not say they have to put up with your shit.
You don't also get to have a platform about it either.
Exactly.
Again,
so
digging ditches, like that's part of being an author, being a writer, being a creative, is that if you're doing it in public and for money, then you have a platform of some kind. That platform exists to the extent that people are willing to let you have it, more or less.
Yeah.
So you're not owed a platform. You're not owed an audience.
You're not owed a debate.
No, none of those things.
No. So just remember that. It's the U.S. government is not allowed to say, hey, you can't have your Social Security benefits because you're a racist. They can't do that. But his bosses, his syndicate, can say, yeah, we don't want to be associated with you because you're a raging racist, so bye. They're allowed to do that. It's not a First Amendment violation at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just, for some reason, that one thing is a very that bugs me, because it's like one of those things where it's written right there, and you say it violates it. No. And considering a lot of these people know the Second Amendment by heart, you'd think they would have read the first one carefully.
There's a lot of components to the first one, too. It's not even
Yes.
just freedom of speech. It's freedom of a lot of other things.
Yeah, I don't know if I can ever remember all 5.
Yeah, I know. I'm always like, okay, it's speech and press and assembly and
Religion. And the 5th one, the Harpo.
the harp,
The Harpo of the First Amendment.
the Ringo.
Daniel, that's also... Yeah, do they really know the second? But anyway, we are getting off into constitutional discussions.
Womp womp.
It's still just... Oh yeah, do Canadians scream First Amendment? Wow.
Is airing of grievances? Is that the 5th one?
I don't think so.
I just saw it in chat and I was like, really? That doesn't sound right, but okay.
See, Shauna, I thought that Canadians don't want to be considered to be American. Like, you don't want to get confused with us. So why claim to have one of our rules? Festivus, that's a good one. Okay.
Canadians just have to worry about the monarchy and something called a prime minister, which I guess is it's the minister that cannot be divided by 2.
Lee Burwell says the right to petition the government for a redress of grievance. That also sounds like Festivus, but yes. Okay. Well done, Lee. Good job.
Thank you. I'm proud that we got as many as we did.
Yeah, we did. We're good.
The people listening at home cannot see the faces that we just made.
I'm sorry. I'm reading in the chat about all the people in the UK and Canada who have been crying about the First Amendment.
Are they real or are those bots also? Because that's the other.
The world is just the worst thing about getting older, I'll tell you, is like just realizing that everything's pretty bad. I need a dose of good news because I just am losing faith in everything now. It's just
good news is tomorrow. I should be writing.
Yes, exactly.
There's no good news for ditch digging. There's just dirt and more dirt and sweat.
Yeah, and shovels.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you dig the ditch with your hands because that's all you got.
So yeah, I think the lessons we've learned here is learn what the First Amendment is.
Yes.
You could do a lot more good for the world and your writing career if you just take all the energy you're doing in trying to game the system and working within the system. Key and Peele had this great sketch where they're just like, hey man, I know how we can get so much money for a bank. So first thing we do is we go in there and we interview. And then we go there every day, and every two weeks, the bank will just give us money. It's like, we'll get them from the inside. And the other guy's like, that's a job.
That you just said you're going to just get a job, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when tech bros invent new things, new technology, like the bus.
Yeah.
Or this. My favorite was the people who were going to invent the bodega, but it wasn't a bodega. They were calling it bodega. Bodega is like a small supermarket kind of for people who may not know what that is. But they were inventing the bodega, except it was actually an automat. It was literally a store of vending machines.
Ah.
And I was like, okay, first of all, that has been invented. That exists. Second of all, how dare you call it a bodega? I'm offended. There are no cats in this shop, only machines, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. Stop it.
Could there be cats inside the machines? Like ghosts?
Anything's possible.
That's
we would
true.
have to ask the Cats Cast folks.
That's
They
true.
would know better than we.
That's true. What else have we learned? Don't just, become familiar with AI, learn about it if you're interested, but just remember, just write your own stuff. Tell your kids, write your own stuff.
And what, like, in a way, the AI exists to circumvent the work. It exists to get around having to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you are a person who wants to make art, the work is the part that you want to do. Like, it's not just about having a finished product. I
Yeah.
feel like people who are not artists of any kind tend to miss that, where it's like, yes, we want to have the finished product. Yes, there is a satisfaction in it, but the satisfaction largely derives from the amount of work that went into getting there.
Yeah.
It is the journey and not the destination exclusively. And these are folks who simply want to teleport from one place to the other. As convenient as that would be for literal physical reality, when it comes to making art, it kind of misses the point.
Yes. Well, I have held you here for over an hour, Valerie. Tell people who you are and where to find you, and I'll hold your book up while they do it.
Woot! So yeah, I'm Valerie Valdes. I'm the author of the Chilling Effect trilogy, which includes Chilling Effect, Prime Deceptions, and Fault Tolerance, which just came out in August. And my forthcoming novel is Where Peace is Lost, which is sort of a planetary romance, space fantasy. If you like Star Wars, you may like this book.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, and I am Mer Lafferty. Right now, I do streaming. I stream my podcast Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. That's 2 p.m. Monday and 3 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. I talk about business of writing on Monday, and I talk about all the other stuff on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I sometimes game, but I haven't really found the right time to do it. So, working on that. But also, you can find my books. My latest book is Station Eternity. It came out in October. It is available where fine books are sold. I've got your book to show to everybody. I don't have mine. What'd you do with my book, Valerie?
I took it.
Oh.
Sorry. I really wanted it. It's in my defense, it has a great cover, and also the stuff inside the cover is pretty good too.
I found it. I got Preemie's books too.
Oh,
There's mine. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming in the chat and hanging out and making that lots of fun. Yes, I would like to have Val back on the podcast more often as well.
I appreciate you.
Valerie's awesome. This podcast was produced under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives License. Music provided by Devo Spice, devospice.com.
Ditch Diggers!
This is a free podcast brought to you by the kindness of our patrons. If you would like to also be kind and a patron, go to patreon.com/mightymur.